Good morning, friends. Welcome back to She's At It Again. My name is Tanya, and I've got a busy day ahead, but real quick, I want to show you how to make a blueberry galette. Now, the only reason I'm doing this is because my friend has fabulous blueberry bushes, and she lets me pick blueberries. I went and picked some the other day, and it's time to use something to make something new. So I'm just kind of making this up. This isn't a regular blueberry galette. I'm going to add a cream cheese layer at the bottom of it, so we'll see how this turns out, but I'm not going to hold anything back. If it's messed up, I'm going to show you that too. So anyway, I want to show you how we get started here, because I'm not really ready to get started. I don't have anything together yet, but I want to show you this. She has blackberry bushes also, so I have blackberries mixed in with this. Now, you don't wash blueberries. Don't take your blueberries home and wash them. And I know some people are going to be saying, "You nasty, you're not washing your blueberries." Okay, I'm nasty. But I usually just sprinkle mine out in a larger pan where I can see them better. And I make sure all the stems are off and no little bugs are climbing around them. I've had these in a pretty cold refrigerator in my garage for a few days. But I'm going to pick the blackberries out of them when I see those. But I saw a few stems a while ago. Sometimes I have a piece of grass in there from where one fell on the ground. See, there's one with a little tiny stem on it. So I'll just pick the stems off and just make sure they're in good shape. I don't want any light colored ones because those are a bit more tart. I like the big hefty ones like that. That's a good one right there. So pretty. I did not grow up eating blueberries. I thought that was something they had in a different state, and I'd never even seen anything blueberry except for that store-bought, I don't know what brand it was, some kind of blueberry muffin mix where it has a little can of wild Maine blueberries. And I knew I loved blueberry muffins, but of course, never mind, there was mostly sugar. But I'd never obviously picked blueberries until not too many years ago. And I thought, now this is the way to go. I grew up picking blackberries, and I knew that that was just one of the most dangerous things you could do because there's so many stickers and there's snakes hiding in the blackberry vines. But blueberries do not have stickers on the bushes, so I was all about that. Okay, so get down to the bottom of the bucket and you have little things like that, and I'll just pick these out. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what to do with the blueberries. If you buy yours at the store, just bring them home and put them in a pan and make sure they're all free of debris or anything like that. And then we're ready to make our galette in just a minute. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to get started on our blueberry galette. And the first thing I want to do is take my blueberries and put them in a mixture so they can be kind of not really absorbing it, but just because, so it won't be so dry. It'll be a little bit wet by the time we put it in there. So I want to start out with coconut sugar, only because processed sugar is just kind of out of the picture for me unless I'm making it for somebody else and they're okay with that. I'm just not okay with it. Coconut sugar is so fabulous. The fragrance is good. You're not going to tell a huge difference in something as far as the taste of it, but I can tell it probably because I know it's in there. But I'm going to put about, I'd say roughly 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar in a bowl. This is cardamom. You like my fancy label? Because it comes in bags because I buy it in bulk. I don't buy a whole lot at a time, but I buy it in bulk. And I'd say that's roughly a half teaspoon of cardamom. And this is just ground cardamom pods is all this is. And then, of course, a little bit of salt. We don't want to forget the salt because it just enhances the sweetness of it. I'd say that's about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Just a big pinch of salt. Scoot this back over there. I'm also going to add some flour to this. This is not a gluten-free dessert, obviously, because we have a crust to deal with, and it's made with flour. All right, I'm going to put about a tablespoon of flour in this. Not a whole lot. And the only reason I'm even adding flour to it is because if the blueberries are very juicy, I don't want the juice necessarily running out of it. I want them to kind of stick in there, so this will make it a little bit thicker if it decides to try to escape. I don't necessarily know that I'll need all these blueberries, but I'll see how many I need. Let me turn it this way so you can see what I'm doing. All right, stirred those up, and that's what they look like. And I'm just going to set those aside. So if there's any moisture in there, it's going to kind of absorb that flour and sugar mixture. Next thing we want to do is take our cream cheese that has come pretty much to room temperature. We're going to do the same thing with it, season it a little bit. So a little bit of salt. This is 4 ounces of cream cheese, so half of a package of cream cheese. And you can use whatever sweetener you want to. I started to use honey, and I thought, no, I'm just going to stick with the coconut sugar. So again, coconut sugar in this. Not a lot. We're just going to sweeten it just a bit. So that's probably 1 tablespoon of coconut sugar. I'm going to have to go back and watch this video to put the recipe in the description, and that's where it'll be by the time you see it. But right now I'm just kind of I'm just making it up as I go, so I'll have to refer back to this and say, how much did I put in that? And if it needs an adjustment, if it's not sweet enough, or if it's just right, or I thought it needed something else, I will add that in the recipe. So the recipe will be a corrected, if there needs any corrections to it, it will be a corrected version. I'm going to add a touch of vanilla to this just because that's what Nana always did. If it's a dessert, you just add either almond or vanilla extract to it. This is homemade vanilla. About a half teaspoon. It is supposed to be up in the 90s today here in northern central Arkansas. When I got up this morning at about 5:30, it was in the 70s, and the temperature felt like it was in the 80s, it said. And the humidity was 92%. Yeah, that's right. So, I say all that to say I'm going to be preheating the little convection oven in the sunroom because I don't want to deal with the heat in the house. I try to use my appliances that produce heat as little as possible, especially during the hottest part of the day. And right now it's only a little after 8:30 in the morning. But I try to use them as little as possible during the hottest part of the day because it just makes the air conditioner work that much harder to cool it off and to get the humidity out of the air. Okay, so you can see this coconut sugar, it's not very grainy. You can see a few of the darker brown chunks in there, but it dissolves so smoothly. It is just so much fun to work with. Okay, I'm going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Okay, that's preheating, and I made my pastry dough the other day. We will include the recipe for that, and we'll also attach a link to a video that shows you step-by-step how to make pastry. This is pure butter pastry. It also has sour cream in it for a bit more flavor, and you will likely not find a pastry crust this good. I'm telling you, the flavor is just out of this world. It's easy to work with, but I work with pastry a lot, so maybe I'm just saying that because it's easy for me, but I hope you find it as easy as I do. But we've let this come to room temperature. It was in the refrigerator. I think I made it 2 days ago, but I'm not sure. Okay, we'll flour our countertop, and our countertop has been cleaned off, of course. And I'll use this rolling pin. I have a marble rolling pin and I have a wooden rolling pin. And all we're going to do is just roll out a circle, and we're going to be baking it on this, not in a pie pan. If you are afraid of pastry, I would encourage you to watch the video about making pastry. And I grew up, well, I say grow up. I didn't even make a pie crust until I was in high school. And we had a home ec class, and for some reason, just freakishly, mine turned out great. And I was like, hey, I apparently know what I'm doing. So, you know how when you try something and it messes up, you really don't have much confidence? Well, trust me, my confidence was over the moon by that point because mine looked so good. But at that point, I was using vegetable shortening. I knew nothing about healthy ingredients at all. But once I figured out how horrible that was as far as the health aspect of it, I was on a search for a good pastry recipe. And I found butter pastry crust recipes that were fine, and they were more flavorful than the ones with the shortening in it, but this one tops them all. And I wish I knew where I got it. Perhaps Cook's Illustrated. And if you're not familiar with Cook's Illustrated and you're interested in cooking, that's a great, great resource. I mean, I cannot say enough good things about it. They don't always, I guess they don't always bring up the adverse health effects of some of the things they use, but it's a great resource as far as it's probably, if they share a recipe, it's probably one of the best ones you'll ever find. So, very good resource. You can always opt for healthier ingredients once you know what they are. But as far as flavor, theirs is to be trusted. Okay, as much of a circle as you can make it, but it's not that big of a deal because it's going to be folded over anyway. And I'm whoops, I just dragged my fingernail through it. Picked up a piece. That doesn't normally happen. Okay, I'm going to measure this so I can just let you know how big it is. This circle is about 16 inches in diameter. And to transfer this onto our baking pan, we're going to fold it. You can also fold it in quarters if you want to. I'm going to scoot it over just a bit. I'm going to add just a little light sprinkling of flour on the pan. I don't think it'll have problem sticking, but by the time we start eating this, it's all hands on deck and everybody's grabbing, and who cares if it's stuck to the pan? Somebody's going to eat it. So as you can see, this has covered the whole pan. And what we want to do now is put down our cream cheese mixture. Like I said, I just thought this up in my head the other day, so it's not like I looked on someplace and found a recipe and I'm messing it up. I'm making this up. If I can add cream cheese to something, it's probably going to get added. We don't want to spread this all the way to the edge because we're going to be folding these edges in, and we just want it on the part pretty much where our blueberries are going to sit. Now, if you're one of those people, you have maybe a cup of blueberries and you don't have enough to make a whole galette, add something to it like peaches or mango or apple or something like that. The flavors, when you start adding fruit and combining them, are just so incredible. You could even add cherries to it. If you have frozen fruit, thaw those out, and they all should be fine together. Fruit normally gets along pretty well, especially in something like this that's baked. All right, now we're going to take our blueberries. Okay, those didn't have a whole lot of juice on them. Had these been frozen blueberries, and I started to use frozen blueberries, and I thought, nah, I picked those the other day, I'll just go ahead and use those. But had these been frozen blueberries, they would have had enough moisture on them to where they would have kind of made a, not really a paste, but they would have absorbed a lot of the sugar and dissolved it. But this is fine. All right, I'm just going to pour this on here. Thank goodness my pan has an edge on it, that way the blueberries don't roll off on the counter. All right, I think I'm going to put some butter on top of that. This is what happens when you make up your own dessert. You start coming up with ideas as you're baking it. I'm just going to dot these around on here. Normally, I would love to serve this almost fresh out of the oven, cooled off just a little bit, but because of the hot weather, I don't mind serving it at room temperature. It's really not that big of a deal. All right, now we'll start folding this upward. We're going to go around like that. I think this design in some other things like dumplings and stuff is called a purse, which you can see it looks like a purse that's gathered at the top. I'm going to press it down just a little bit because I don't need it in a mound like a volcano, because it just does better when it's flat. I don't really have an excuse for it, but in my mind I'm thinking it's just better when it's bigger around. Okay, last step is we're going to take this little tiny Seabright egg. We're going to give it an egg wash on the top. And it's going to make the crust super shiny. So I'm not necessarily going to beat the egg. I'm just going to use the whites of it to brush on there. And then I'll use the rest of the egg for something else later on. It doesn't adversely affect it if there's egg yolk in it at all, but it just doesn't have that yellow tint to it that can sometimes be misrepresented as a burn spot when the yolk is on there. Seems like the egg white just gives it a little prettier color. At this point, you could always sprinkle something else on it. You could sprinkle more cardamom on the top, or coconut sugar. But I think I'm going to leave mine just like this. Okay, so right now, this is what it looks like. Let me show you from the top. This is what it looks like. And we're going to go bake this off for about 25 or 30 minutes, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. Okay, the timer just went off on our little oven out in the sunroom, so I'm going to go get that. Okay, here's our galette. I'll let you see it from overhead. This is what it looks like. I think I could have probably melted the butter and tossed it in the blueberries, because right now they still have a little bit of that flour coating on it. But am I going to complain when I eat it? No. We're going to have that eaten so fast after dinner tonight, we won't remember what it looked like. So anyway, all right, recipe will be in the description as always. I'll change it around to kind of make some maybe improvements. If nothing else, talk about maybe the melted butter. Anyway, give this a try, especially if you get to go pick some fresh blueberries. That would be nice. But of course, they're pretty much year-round, readily available in the supermarket, so nothing's going to stop you there. You can even use frozen blueberries in this. So anyway, hope you give this a try, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. Y'all have a good day and stay cool. Bye.